All right, all right, all right. We are live here, and I got over my shoulder. Ruckus Avenue Radio. We're back with another episode of Freedom Movement. Freedom Movement. Am I on here? Let's see. You go over here, and you can see. Oh, you can like watch me. So I'm actually like kind of checking out um Ruckus Avenue right now, and I'm somewhere on here, featured host. I don't know how featured I am. I'm probably like as low featured as possible down here. Maybe not even down here. Maybe I'm unfeatured featured. How's that? Oh, there I am right there. Freedom Movement. That's this clown right here, whoever this guy is. All right. So here's a show. It's the week of Martin Luther King Jr.'s celebration. And I think it's a good opportunity to kind of dive into Mr. MLK, the OG, the man, the Mac Daddy. So what I'm talking about, right? So with this conversation, I pop up a beautiful conversation that he had with a conversation that he had a conversation, a speech, a speech that he did. And it's interesting, guys. So I'm sharing this with you guys, and those of you guys who watch the video, you'll see I have it kind of, it's over my shoulder. I'm sharing. It's actually literally his speech. I was actually on driving through Topanga yesterday, and they were playing the speech, but with music behind it. And it was like really cool, like hip hop and mixture of like jazz and hip hop behind it. It was really nice. And I might start doing stuff like that too. So if you guys start tuning into some of the other things I'm up to outside of Freedom, and maybe we do it within this space as well. But I do want to share this idea. This particular speech was called Loving Your Enemies. And, I also, like over here, I'm also sharing how Martin Luther King Jr. went to India and met with Mahatma Gandhi, and was influenced by some like Vedic ideas, right? Some philosophies that, not just ahimsa, but about courageous ahimsa, right? Which is kind of completely different beast, if you want to say, than everything we do, right? A lot of what we do in terms of caring is really not based in dumb, not based in freedom, dumb. So since I got you guys, maybe some of y'all will be watching this. I wanted to look up what dumb means, because people are like, wait, what is dumb? Like, can you explain it? What does it mean? But like, maybe some of you guys out there too, like have your definitions. Okay. Like I want to hear, right? Dumb over here, they say coddle. I don't know. That's not the right definition. There's a movie called Dumb. I don't know if you guys remember it. Dumb machale, dumb machale, dumb. Right? Oh no, now they're gonna make me pay for it. Great. So what does dumb mean to you guys? What is that translated to? Look, I'm busting out over here with the movie, and it says translation guts. Like having the guts, right? I guess that's a pretty cool definition if you think about it, because like what's going on in our world, but whatever you believe in at this point, doesn't matter what you believe in, what political side you have, like what emotional thing that you're like attached to, and what story, what ideology you're attached to. No matter what the thing is, like actually practicing courage, and courage within the space of the things you care about, the way you want to be of service in the world, and then leaning into that with with courage, with guts, actually being like, wait, this is not the easiest thing or the most normal thing, but I'm going to go a little bit further because I know people are suffering, or maybe they're like, like right now is a good example, right? Everybody's really freaked out about, people dying, like, right? Or being the cause of other people's dying, right? That's another one. But then the interesting thing to talk about that is like, wait, if we're this concerned about people dying and getting sick and dying, what about the people who are already sick? What about the people who are sick from pesticides on the foods that people eat because they're eating food that's not organic and it's not healthy, and it's coming through processed foods that we know cause cancer, that we know cause chronic illness? There's literally been lawsuits that have been places like Mexico and Europe ban certain types of pesticides that we still use in our foods. That's all causing illness. Are we giving the same amount of inertia and energy if we care about people's lives? Are we showing up with dumb? Are we showing up with passion and with courage and with guts to prevent people getting sick from pesticides, people eating inverted sugar, which is causing diabetes? Are we like doing the same effort? Are we putting together forward the same effort? And that being said, I'm going to come back to Dr. King's speech over here, right? And in this speech, Loving Your Enemies, I think, I just encourage y'all to either listen to it, Loving Your Enemies, Martin Luther King Jr., his speech. And quotes are quotes. I'm not a fan of quotes. Like, quotes are great, but that doesn't give you, most quotes come within context. They come within nuance. And if you understand the bigger picture, the story, the speech, the conversation, if you don't sit with that and you don't give it enough focus, I mean, we're not talking about the 5-second TikTok focus, but like, give it the focus of like, hey, whoa, let me give this thing focus. Then you don't just get a little mini quote. You don't miss the nuance. You actually end up finding out something you never even knew. You're just like, whoa, like, holy cow, this is legit stuff. So this speech is fantastic. You could listen to it on YouTube. You could probably find it on some other like audio space, but you could read it. Okay, you could put on some music in the background and you can read it. And I'm not going to even like disparage this by talking about it. But even one of the things I love about him is how he talks about capitalism, how he talks about communism, how he talks about economics, how he talks about, he like hits on so many different angles. But really, over and over again, he comes back to this idea of agape, right? This idea of loving everybody, including your enemies, loving them so much that you start to recognize the commonalities. You start to connect with the commonalities. And, you wonder, like, is this stuff that also he kind of did, like, is this why him and Gandhi got along so well? Is this why they connected? Is this was this the purpose? Beyond that, how about who else was Martin Luther King Jr. connecting with to come about this idea of like, hey, we need to love our enemies. Like, if we're going to get anywhere, we need to love our enemies. Now, like, what does that mean to love your enemy? Like, is it like, oh, I just like love that person and I want they need to do this thing. Like, they need to be this way. They need to think this way. They're dumb. Like, is that loving your enemy? What is loving your enemy? Like, how does loving your enemy show up? When does it show up? Where does it show up? I don't know. I mean, it's a fascinating thing to think about, right? Like, how loving your enemy can show up, in what ways it can show up. And then also, like, for us, right? Like, how do we quantify? How do we say what an enemy is? Like, what is an enemy? Right? Like, is it somebody who competes with us for resources? Is that an enemy? Somebody competing against us? What's an enemy? How does it show up? Let me ask you this about enemy. Do you have frenemies? What about frenemies? Are they helpful sometimes? Like, why do we even have frenemies? Why do we have certain people that, like, we know, man, this person is definitely toxic. This person is definitely energy vampire. This person definitely uses me or whatever. But then we're like, cool with that. We're like, we accept it. Almost like some sort of like sadistic thing. We're like, I know this person's bad for me. I know it, but you know what? I'm going to just, keep going with it. Right. We do this with like governments too. I'm just talking about, like, it's crazy how much we allow ourselves to have enemies, but not recognize them. And then if we do recognize them, what do we do with it? If we don't recognize them, does it matter if we like are acting with love, if we're acting with dumb, if we're like doing things, dharmically, if we're doing things karmically, right? I'm making that word up, but if we're doing things within the context of karma, if we're doing things within the context of dharma, then are we actually causing harm when we love our enemy, or when we love everybody and we actually lean into that love? And what is that love? Like, I think about that too, right? Like, loving my enemy, listening to the speech, with Martin Luther King Jr. It was interesting because one of the things I noticed that he kept going back to was referencing Jesus and referencing other religions and cultures. Just like this idea of like understanding that like we are all interconnected. Like, we're so connected. Like, our choices, our decisions, our ignorance, our anger, our judgment of others is actually not a judgment of others necessarily, but a judgment of ourselves. When you see homeless people on the street, we're participating in that. We pay taxes, right, that don't do anything about that. So we're not like questioning where our money's going, right? in any meaningful way. And then on top of it, those homeless people are an indicator of our society. You know, they say a civilization is only what it is based on where its lowest people are, where the lowest, whatever, the lowest parts of society, how low are they? And when people are on the streets and they're suffering and they're ill, mentally, physically, spiritually ill, and we like pretend like it's nobody else's problem, it's society's problem. We're a part of society. It's an indicator of something within ourselves that we can even allow something like that to get that bad and to continue while we're participating in it, right? And so that's where that dumb idea comes in, right? Like dumb. How do we have dumb? How do we have dumb in a time when everybody has gut issues? Like let's look at this. Yeah, let me look. Incidents of GI issues in America. Let's see. What do you guys think? How bad is the GI issues in America? What do you think? Here, we'll look it up right here. All right, we're going to look digestive issue statistics for the United States. All right, here, survey shows the 74% of Americans living with GI disease, burden of gastrointestinal. So like we can't even we can't even have guts because survey shows 74% living with GI discomfort. This is 2015. Like, do you think this is better, guys? Like, do you think this is better, guys, girls, and everything in between, aliens? Burden of, let's see, results of a nationally of 71,000 Americans. Let's see, abstract. Let's see, that does account for over 100 million ambulatory visits annually. Okay, GI, people with, what is it called? Like, you can either have diarrhea or IBS or Crohn's disease or whatever. There's so many different words, or you could have constipation and you have to go to the hospital because it gets painful. You can't sleep because of this stuff. So conclusion, in this large population-based study that combined digital health technology with NIH, we found that GI issues are highly prevalent as nearly 2/3 of surveyed Americans are burdened by these symptoms. 2/3. This is, what year is this now? This is within 71,000. So this was 2015 as well. So what happened? Do you think digestive issues have gotten better or worse? Right? So in 2010, okay, 60 to 70 million people. So virtually a third of our population, you know, a fifth to a third of our population is dealing with intestinal issues. So we can't even act with our guts. We literally are not well in our gut. So how could we act? How could we make decisions? How could we go about stuff? You know, if we're like, we're pooping wrong and we're like, we're not pooping properly. We literally can't act with our, you know, it's funny. The solar plexus is actually, you know, yeah, it's like a chakra thing and it's like Kundalini and blah, blah, and yoga. But like, let's just think simply, actually scientifically, right? Our stomach, like where we digest our food, it's a furnace. Like things have to burn they have to literally have to heat up. So your stomach is a fire, right? It's a furnace. It literally is like hot. And we talk about solar plexus, right? Like solar, right? Like, so in your stomach is like almost like a energy system that's like burning things up that can be distributing nutrients and all kinds of stuff. And maybe even killing viruses and fungi that might be bad for us, or parasites, right? So then you have this thing, so you have this solar plexus. But what happens when our gut's not well? Can we actually make choices in courage? Can we actually take actions of courage? Can we express a love for our enemies? Because then we're going to be scared of our enemies. We're like terrified. We're either terrified of our enemies, or we Stockholm syndrome and embrace our enemies. And we're like, oh, please don't do anything to me. I love you. I remember I was on your team. Like, can you imagine how many Jewish people, when like this stuff was happening in India, no, not India, in Germany, and how like there was probably a bunch of like very wealthy Jewish people, and they started seeing like what was happening with Hitler, because he won a bunch of awards actually. The country actually awarded Hitler on his way to where he was, along with whatever was going on there. It was a slow process that was actually noticed by everyone, but there were a significant amount of like very successful Jewish people that were like, hey, like, you know, this is not happening to us. It's going to happen to the poor people. Like, I'm on the right team. I'm on the right side. And they can see it was bad, but they also were like, wait a second, I'm on this team because, you know, I can get away with it. But at some point, somebody came to their door, and there were many of them that experienced that. And that happened in India with Hill Rajas and different people, you know, what's it called? They get captured, right? They get captured by whatever's the oppressive power is, right? And we can see this capture happening now in many different spaces, including science, right? And I think that's one of the things that we'll discuss with the freedom movement is kind of like talking about science, but maybe digging more, asking more questions, bringing on people, and maybe having debates and conversations, and let's be uncomfortable, right? That's the thing. And let's honor Martin Luther King Jr. Let's honor Gandhi. Let's honor anybody else who has practiced and brought some level of, having courage in spaces where we all hope we could, right? And that being said, I am particularly impressed and what's the right word I'm looking for? I'm both impressed and in awe of how many amazing people have done amazing things on this planet. Like how many of them have stepped up when there's like incredibly oppressive things happening? How many people have given up their lives for people to practice the freedom of religion, for people to practice the freedom of speech, for people to practice the freedom to grow food, the freedom to be, the freedom to choose whatever they want, like the freedom, but not, that doesn't mean freedom does not do with stupid stuff. I mean, let me ask you a question. Do you think that if we were left to our devices, just all of us, just generally speaking, if we were left to our devices, do you think we would all just kill each other and mug each other and destroy each other? Are humans altruistic or are they destructive by nature? By nature, and when I say nature, like think about natural laws. Like when we're operating, when we're living within natural laws, not human-made laws, but natural laws, like how things grow, how the sun works, how the ocean works, how the water, the carbon cycle, oxygen, breathing, exhaling, like when we function within the natural laws, how do we feel? What happens to our neuropsychoimmunology? Literally, like what happens to that space? Does our immune system improve when we function within the natural laws? How about when we eat healthier things that are like grown within nature, that are in the context of seasons and what's growing where you live? How do we feel? Does that improve our digestive system? Holy cow. Are humans naturally altruistic? It's an interesting question to think about. So are humans, altruistic naturally, or are we, here we go. There we go. Let's see. Human inclinations. Okay. Is human nature fundamentally selfish or altruistic? Human inclinations are not primarily selfish. Kindness and altruism have been evolutionary valued in mates, and even the youngest children often try to be helpful. All right. So think about that. Oh, Amazon getting to like advertise on here. Man, Amazon, what the heck, bro? There you go. You can't advertise on me now. Go ahead, try. You gotta pay us, right? Ruckus. Don't they have to pay us? They should pay us, right? So look at this right here. You can see that we left to our devices will naturally tend towards altruism, towards kindness, but we're not given the opportunity. In fact, I encourage all of you that are listening to think about how much you allow the news and different things you're reading on social media. How does it make you feel in your body? Like next time you're like put on the news or you look, just like feel out your body and be like, how do you feel? Feel your gut. How does your gut feel? Like, do you feel full and good? Like after you have a really good poop and you just like feel good, like solid. How do you feel after you look at like the news, or you look at like an article, you like the news is on at your house or your family's house, you're visiting your parents or whatever, and you see the news, or you see it on Twitter, or you just see any sort of news that's happening in the world, current news, current events. How does it make you feel in your stomach? Just check it out, right? Now, that's one thing you could try. If you wanted to try another thing, it's doing something just radically kind, like randomly paying for somebody's coffee, right? Like randomly, like if there is somebody houseless or homeless, just bringing them some coffee or asking them what you could buy for them, randomly helping out, anywhere, volunteering somewhere, anything. do something with radical kindness. That's not normal. You're not getting benefited from it. You're not getting a social media post out of it. You're not getting like marketing, right? You're just doing something kind for the sake of kindness. Feel out your stomach after you do that. Like, I just try those. It's an experiment. I don't know what's going to happen, but try it out. See what happens. You know, is there something to say that, oh yeah, take my cookies. I love eating cookies. How do you guys feel about cookies? So this is a physics organization, a nonprofit for physics, and humans naturally cooperative, altruistic, and social. So imagine, yeah, you know, it's funny because in the Western culture, there has been this it's funny, like it's Western science and Western technology, Western culture has done this really funny thing where it's separated man from nature in a really brilliant way. I mean, we're seeing it with this current, you know, crisis that's been going on. We see literally how we're not even discussing how humans naturally function within nature, right? How do we reconcile with bacteria? Why do we have a bunch of bacteria in our gut? Like if we take antibiotics, right? And what are those antibiotics? Is there nuance, right? Is what I'm trying to say, right? Are there situations where we evolve with nature? We evolve with it rather than we fight it. We're at war with nature. We're blowing it up. We're mining it. We're destroying whatever. We're killing things. Like we're at war. Are we at war with nature? Does nature war? Or do humans war? Like, and what does warring come from, right? When MLK is talking about loving your enemies, right? Like, what if war is the great illusion, the separation between us, right? The separation between not just you and me and other people out there, but what if war is it's an illness, right? Within the human consciousness that forgets that we are cooperative, that we are altruistic, that we are social, right? That social aspects is not about being, fake or superficial social, but actually being social, like helping each other out, recognizing where somebody's suffering and supporting them and helping them out. How does that literally, that's my invitation to you guys. What happens in your body after you serve somebody else, just out of the kindness of helping somebody else? Like what happens within the body? What is a consequence of the body, right? I think, you know, it would be wise for us to start to think about these things, about why, you know, what are we showing up in the most, are we showing up in the world in any sort of meaningful way when it comes to showing up with courage, right? Showing up to loving our enemies, right? Maybe our enemies are suffering. Maybe they're ignorant. Maybe they don't even know stuff. I think about this sometimes when I do come across people who most people conceive as, you know, like wrong or bad or evil people, right? When I meet them personally firsthand, one of the things I notice is it's less evil and more a banality of ignorance, an ignorant banality of evil. How's that? I mean, look at this, banality of evil. This is a terrific book, or you can YouTube it. There's some great YouTube videos on it, written by Hannah Arendt. I hope I'm saying it right. It's called The Banality of Evil. I really recommend. This one's great. This Banality of Evil illustrated video is like awesome. I could put it up in the background over here. But this video is fantastic, right? So it kind of brings up this idea and this concept that evil is not what we think, right? Like actually a lot of the evil that's happened in the world, a lot of the enemies that we feel have done terrible things, they did it under the auspices, like how they were able to do it mass scale was actually, it was boring. Like the whole banality means boring. I mean, I like look at this up for you guys. Banality definition. Banality literally means boring, like tedious, like just so like, ugh, you know, kind of like how politics is now, right? The way we like to go, oh, somebody else, let them do it, right? Let somebody else do the busy work. Let somebody else do the bureaucracy. I don't want to do that, right? Nobody wants to do the boring, repetitive thing, right? Something that lacks originality, freshness, novelty. That's banal. Right. So the banality of evil is saying that evil grows and it starts to spread when more people, when literally acts that cause harm, acts that cause division, acts that cause separation, like things that cause separation and division and divisiveness, that becomes a part of the bureaucracy. It becomes a part of the banality of evil. It literally things, the decisions that are happening are so boring that people just keep doing them and they don't question. They don't go like, hey, wait a second, is that causing harm? Is that the best thing we could do? Is that the best we could do? And then having courage, like, no, wait, hold on. I'm going to say something. Hello. Is this the best we can do? There's hungry people outside. Can we give food away? Do we need to charge them? We're throwing away food over here. Can we give like that? Like the not questioning part is how the banality of evil starts to evolve. And that's kind of what, Hannah Arendt kind of demonstrates with this. Both of her parents, one parent went through the Holocaust, one parent went through the gulags or whatever in Soviet Union. And so she experienced from two sides, people going through this experience of, there she is. There, people actually experiencing like people doing what they're told and killing people, people doing what they're told and separating people doing what they're told, separating children from parents, people doing what they're told and gas chambering people doing what they're told. And they're just like, hey, like somebody told me to do that. So that's the banality of evil, right? The bureaucracy gets easily passed down and everybody pushes off responsibility. I'm just doing what I'm told. I'm getting paid. I got my house. I got my kids. I got my health insurance, my dental insurance. So I'm doing what I'm getting paid. They told me to kill that person. I just did. They told me to push that button. I just did it. They told me to. How's the freedom over there? How's that freedom? What do you guys think? So, and it's really interesting that this concept is actually, it's not known, right? Like, the further the decision makers are from the people that are being affected, the more chance it's going to be from a place of ignorance. If that place of ignorance causes harm, then we call it evil. That's my opinion. I mean, you got your own opinion. We all got our own opinions, but the ignorance of the effects of choices, sometimes that ignorance is on purpose. Sometimes it's an illness. Sometimes it's greed or apathy or overzealousness or hubris or lust or ego. Those thieves, those vices, those sins, whatever you want to call them, that keep coming around within ourselves, individually and collectively. Those things, man, they really mess humanity up and kind of throw us off. And in my opinion, we're going through that now. And this whole show and this kind of like experience will be an exploration of that. We're going to keep diving in. We're going to like look at different stuff. We're going to watch, maybe check out some videos. We're going to bring on different guests and to talk about things that are going on. But really, it's really an idea of like tapping into, right? For us to have this experience of freedom, to free our dumb, to free our stomachs, our guts, right? You guys remember that? You remember that? Hold on. Let me go back here. Dumb. Okay. Our guts. It's Wikipedia. The movie gets translated as guts. Okay. so dumb, right? We to free our dumb, right? We must first face the evil. We need to face the ignorance. We need to think about it and talk about it. But let me ask you this. Can we have fun while we do it? Can we play music? Can we laugh? Can we tell jokes? Can we do funny commercials? Can we do all kinds of weird things? Sure, we can. We can do whatever the heck we want. We can have fun with it, right? Certainly there is nobody making up the rules here. In fact, that's a beautiful part of it. And with that being said, I want to share this with you guys. When you get a chance, the music that you hear at the beginning of the show, it's from Surya Records, and I'm busting open Surya Records over here. It's my buddy, my home dog, my homie, it doesn't matter which one we are. My Wayne to my Garth, or my Garth to my Wayne, my Ted to my Bill to my Ted. Sid is just, I love Sid Art. He's a super talented musician, a builder, an artist, a engineer, a teacher, an educator, a student, so many awesome things. I love him so much. Check out suryarecords.com. If you can, Surya Records, SURYA records.com. His music's are awesome, but he does sound baths. Arts. He's got an amazing studio and a sound bath space in Brooklyn, in Bushwick, Brooklyn. So you could check that out, which is dope if you're in the New York area. But he also has awesome stuff going on. He has sound baths. He has hanging vimanas. He teaches tabla. So if you want to learn tabla, kartal, he teaches kartal. Oh my gosh. I mean, please visit the site. You'll dive in, check it out, look at all the different stuff he does. It's super awesome. I like the vimanas, which are really cool. The vimanas, if you guys don't know, let me look it up. Vimanas are the Indian UFOs, right? They're these really cool like structures that were, you know, even the Germans were studying this when they were out there. Look at this picture with the over the Stonehenge, right? But like vimanas also look like temples, right? So if you go to India and some Hindu temples, right, you'll see them. So maybe in the future, Sid and I can come on and we can bring on other people to talk about vimanas and how they fly. So Sid makes, he actually makes wax ones, and he even does custom made ones. So I just encourage you to visit his website, check it out. We can, in the future, we're going to talk about vimanas. We'll talk about India and ancient India and aliens, right? Like, let's talk about that. Like, what's up with that, right? Were there ancient alien Indians? And yeah, we'll explore all kinds of stuff, you know, let's see what happens. You know, this is ultimately this is an exploration for us. And maybe if you guys send messages or emails, let us know like what kind of things you want to talk about within the space of freedom. We're freeing our dumb, right? Creating this movement where we come together beyond not just desis, right? Not just South Asians, but what about the people who are influenced by South Asians, right? Bringing them into the space and being like, how do we build a movement of freedom? You know, and I say that with a joke, freedom. I say that jokingly, freedom, but freedom, like, hello, you guys, most of our religions, like I practice Sikhi, right? And in being and practicing Sikhi, you know, it's so important for us to acknowledge the power of freedom, right? Because a lot of like, think about like one of the things Guru Nanak, I was learning about him recently, and how during his travels, they stopped the practice of sati, right? Him and some other people, there were other leaders were starting to do this in different communities. You had to practice freedom, right? Like you had to practice this, you had to have guts, right? You had to practice dumb, right? And you had to go and be like, no more women are going to get killed. We're going to protect them. If they're widowed, they're not killing themselves. Come stay with us. And that's an act of freedom. The power structure was not cool with that, but people had to come together and be like, no, this is what's right? This is what feels right. This is what feels right in my body. Feels kind. It feels altruistic. So we need to take a look at our histories and our religious histories, our spiritual histories, and be like, what inspired Sikhi, right? Was it following the leaders that were in power at that time? Was that what created Sikhi? Was that what created Bhakti movements all over India? Was that what created the Hare Krishna movement? What is that? What created Islam? What is that? What created? Like, think about all these different things that were created. Were they created because the power structures were supporting the people? Were that kindness and altruism was flourishing? Let me just ask you, like, did these religions and spiritual philosophies start because things were great for everybody? Okay. If that's not the case, then maybe take a few more steps and continue to listen to the show and make a point to like tune in, and maybe we can bring you on to have discussions too. I would love where we can lean into freedom, right? Not just the freedom, not just the freedom to practice your religion, not just the freedom to learn how you want to learn, not just the freedom to have I want to word this right, the freedom of intelligence, the freedom of knowledge, the freedom of wisdom, the freedom of health, right? The freedom of well-being, right? Do we have the freedom to explore what it means to be healthy and well and not just sick, right? What is the opposite side of it? How come our insurance doesn't pay for Ayurveda, proactive Ayurveda, not just when you're ill, but proactive Ayurveda, proactive herbology, proactive connecting with farms and growing food, your own food, and getting to the land and connecting with the land? How come that's not a part of our insurance policy? Like, what if it was? What if our insurance was actually incorporating and engaging with proactive activities of health and well-being, right? Mental health and physical health and spiritual health. And spiritual health doesn't have to be overtly religious. Maybe spiritual is getting out in nature and growing food in nature, and that's spiritual, right? Or helping your community and volunteering. Maybe that's spiritual, right? Maybe making UFOs and flying them up and creating new free energy, or recreating free energy devices, right? That save our climate, right? Or that I shouldn't say save our climate, that save a world and ecosystem that will support 7 generations forward, right? That our descendants upon descendants, 7 generations will be in abundance and taken care of, right? Are we going that way? If we're not moving that way, I encourage you to practice dumb and think about freedom and look at speeches like the ones that Martin Luther King Jr. gave in Loving Your Enemies. Listen to speeches from different people. Listen to speeches from Krishnamurti. Listen to speeches from Alan Watts. Listen to speeches from Vandana Shiva. Listen to speeches. There's so many speeches out there. Listen to those speeches. And learn how to become more potent in your dumb, right? Clean your digestive system, eat healthier. Don't be one of the 74%. Lean into like understanding how food affects your GI, what foods you eat, your stress, what you watch, what you pay attention to. I call it spiritual food, right? Like what you pay attention to, what you focus on, what you look at on your phone, what you look at on the TV, what you look on your computer, what you see around you, and what discussions you have with people. That's spiritual food, y'all. So if we're absorbing that stuff, that becomes a part of us, right? And then we wonder why we're depressed or upset or angry, and nothing is happening from that space. So I encourage y'all to ask questions, go into that flow, enjoy that space, but also, I got this belly over here. But also let's have discussions. Let's be curious. Let's be inquisitive. Let's explore the possibilities of what's happening, what's not happening. Let's question what we're told is good, right? Let's question what we're told. Let's not just question, but let's actually maybe experiment, right? With what is, like, what's going on in my community? Are they suffering? Are there homeless people? How are the children doing? How are foster kids? How are poor kids doing right now, right? Like they're not even being able to go to school, right? I volunteer with an organization in Oakland, and I was volunteering and they shut the program down. And it was virtual, and they shut it down. And it's like, but it's virtual. Like, why can't we continue? It was like, we were helping them write stories, mystery novels, right? Like, what a fun thing to do that like completely probably engages them and helps them more than actually doing the classes at school, right? But that's being shut down by nonprofits, by government. I mean, the government's shutting it down so that the nonprofit can do it, right? Their work. And so this is what's happening in real life right now in our communities. So we can step in more. I was just interviewing somebody running for governor of California. And one of the things that came up in that is actually like, how it's almost like, there's an opportunity right now to engage in legacy, right? Like we never before. Like, if you can notice that there's something deeply wrong in our society, like doesn't matter what you believe in, that, we don't practice healthy debate, constructive conversations, nonviolent communication. We don't grow our own food. We don't even know who grows our food anymore. We don't have that relationship. Some of the stuff is being shipped and creating so much pollution, shipping back and forth, right? It's insane to think about all this stuff. But when you notice it, we just notice a little bit of it, this is an opportunity to really shift things in a really potent, meaningful way. Like we can literally change directions, like shift, the train is going this way. We can and there's a train track and we can make a shift to another. We can do that like right now more than ever, because more people are recognizing that there's something going on, right? So, and that something that's going on is we've got to lean into hope, right? We've got to lean into possibility. We got to lead into the idea that evil is not absolute, right? That actually it's a symptom of ignorance, right? That people are not focused, they're not paying attention, they're not involved. And so from that ignorance, so many more people are suffering. And it doesn't matter even now it doesn't matter how much money you have, because I can tell you how many people I know that have money and that are wealthy that are also distressed and unhealthy and unhappy and stressed out and anxious about what's going to happen. So this is an opportunity for us to practice freedom, and freedom. And we'll do both and we'll explore it. And I hope I can be of service in any meaningful way. And if you all ever think about ways we can oh my God, this homie. But this also, we talked about history. If we don't study history, if we don't ask questions about history, if we don't analyze it and seek it out, we're going to destined to repeat it, right? Not just repeat it, but maybe it might get worse, because history, when you don't pay attention to it, it swallows you, right? It ends. History ends for everyone, right? And we were there. We've been there. And we can go there again, right? And we're at that special space. So I encourage y'all to dive into these ideas, ask questions, be curious, be weird, don't be weird. Yeah, all that stuff. Eat healthy, please don't be one of these 74% people. Check out this show. It's on every week, all right, 3 p.m., all right, on Thursdays. It's also in India at 4:30 p.m., okay, so on Fridays. So you can hear me. You can hear what the heck we're talking about. You can hear me say a bunch of nonsense. I'm going to read up a couple of paragraphs to y'all, just to give you guys a perspective, because we don't really, as desis, we don't really go into philosophy deeply unless you studied it. Maybe you tapped on it here and there, but most of us don't really tune in to philosophy. So let me share this little tidbit, Martin Luther King Jr., all right? The Greek language, as I've said so often before, is very powerful at this point. It comes to our aid beautifully in giving us the real meaning and depth of the whole philosophy of love. And I think it is quite apropos at this point for you to see the Greek language has 3 words for love. Interestingly enough, it talks about love as eros. That's one word for love. Eros is a sort of aesthetic love. Plato talks about it a great deal in his dialogues, a sort of yearning of the soul for the realm of the gods. It's come to us to be some sort of romantic love, though it's a beautiful love. Everybody has experienced eros in all its beauty when you find some individual that is attractive to you and that you pour out all of your like and your love on that individual. That is eros. You see, it's a beautiful, powerful love that is given to us through all of the beauty of literature. We read about it. To me, also, eros is like when we get to the top of a hill or a mountain and we look out and it's beautiful, or we see like a bouquet of flowers that's beautiful, or there's something aesthetic like a building that's like beautifully, thoughtfully done, right? The architecture and everything is like eros is not, it can be poetry, right? If we read poetry, it's like this is beautiful, like romantic love of the aesthetics of the gods. I love how he said it there, that the realm, the yearning of the soul for the realm of the gods, right? That's cool. Then the Greek language talks about philia, and that's another type of love that's also beautiful. It is a sort of intimate affection between personal friends. And this is a type of love that you have for those persons that you're friendly with, your intimate friends, or people that you call on the telephone and you go to have dinner with, and your roommate in college, and that type of thing. It's a sort of reciprocal love, all right? Philia, reciprocal love. On this level, you like a person because that person likes you. You love on this level because you are loved. You love on this level because there's something about the person you love that is likable to you. This too is a beautiful love. You can communicate with a person. You have certain things in common. You like to do things together. This is philia, right? Philia, familia, family, philia, Philadelphia, philic, hydrophilic, hyperphilic, Philly, sunny in Philadelphia. Okay. All right. You got it. Philia. All right. So we got eros and we got philia. Okay. Here we go. So what do you got, Martin Luther King Jr., sir? Guruji. Then the Greek language talks about philia. Oh wait, I already read it. The Greek language comes out with another word for love. It is the word agape. And agape is more than eros. Agape is more agape is more than philia. Agape is something of the understanding, creative, redemptive goodwill for all men. Okay. It is a love that seeks nothing in return. It is an overflowing love. It's what theologians would call the love of God working in the lives of men. And when you rise to love on this level, you begin to love men, not because they are likable, but because God loves them. You look at every man and you love him because you know God loves him. And he might be the worst person you've ever seen. And this is what Jesus means, I think, in this very passage when he says, love your enemy. Because Jesus said that. I mean, that was in the Bible, right? And it's significant that he does not say like your enemy. Like is a sentimental thing, an affectionate thing. There are a lot of people that I find it difficult to like. I don't like what they do to me. I don't like what they say about me and other people. I don't like their attitudes. I don't like some of the things they're doing. I don't like them. But Jesus says, love them. And love is greater than like. Love is understanding, redemptive goodwill for all men, so that you love everybody because God loves them. You refuse to do anything that will defeat an individual because you have agape in your soul. And here you come to the point that you love the individual who does the evil deed, while hating the deed that the person does. Read that again. And here you come to the point that you love the individual who does the evil deed while hating the deed that the person does. This is what Jesus means when he says, love your enemy. This is the way to do it. When the opportunity presents itself, when you can defeat your enemy, you must do it. Dum, bajake, dum, bajake, dum, dum, dum. Right? Oh, gosh, this dude, he was on it. Got to give him up. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks for going to India and like hanging out and representing and, you know, taking off your shoes in India, getting stamps in India, just getting so much love and appreciation. Thank you for everything you were about. Thank you for like repping and showing up. Thank you for showing us courage and what courageous love is all about, and agape and philia and eros. And may we all practice it with integrity and love and joyfulness. And let's tap into this freedom movement, right? Let's do it together. I don't know what's right or wrong. I have my opinions, but share yours, and we'll see what happens when we bring our opinions together. Let's see if we can have a sort of universal goodwill to everyone and everything, so we can really face the challenges with love and laughter and joy and comedy. We're gonna have some cool stuff coming, so I'm excited. The more videos and more stuff we do like this, we'll have more funny engagements and create some commercials. And really, we want, you know, we hope this becomes a live show that you guys can not just attend virtually, but in person as well, as we travel around to different cities and just engage people and for people to come together and share around our common shared values, our common ground values and ideas about how we can help our communities, and knowledge share and also resource share, right? That's the beauty in this whole process, is when we're really tuned into our innate altruism. Not only do we get healthier from within, but all kinds of new synchronicities happen and synergies happen because people with resources and with people with energy and people with courage and people with artistic ability come together. Whoa, we could solve amazing problems, and we could solve them even better when we connect with the people who are in need, the people who are suffering the most. If we go and engage the people suffering the most, right? Whether it's the homeless or the poor people, or the people who are becoming more poor now than ever before, because many governments are not supporting people regardless of what their political views are. Maybe we support people with educating them about the Constitution or their Bill of Rights or natural laws, or growing their own food, or helping to create safer, cleaner water for people. There's so many places we can lean into, so many different directions that we can empower people that are beyond Republican or Democrat or red or right or left or or whatever Congress party you are. There's like 50 million Congress parties in India. So, or in all over the world, there's like America has these two, and that's it. But duopoly. But regardless, can we go beyond it? Can we actually engage in the needs of our community and show up in that way? And that's what these discussions will be about, along with making fun of some of the stuff that's there too, and looking up and learning and getting lost and finding ourselves again and going on tangents and all that good stuff. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Have a beautiful week. Be healthy, be well, have some healthy poops, please. Maybe we could bring on some people for Ayurveda, and we could share how do we get our poops healthier. There's probably a lot of different angles depending on what dosha you are and blah, 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 blah. But more importantly than anything, just sharing with you guys that I had to go through, a crisis to find out how to make my gut healthier. And I personally went through a really terrible bout where they wanted to remove a piece of my intestines, right? And I had to be like, wait, there's got to be something else out there. And I got into Ayurveda and never got the surgery and also got better. And I want to encourage that from everybody to kind of see integrate. Let's integrate. Let's be integral. Let's integrate. Let's be intervolutionaries, right? And explore how do we interconnect ideas and philosophies and sciences and intuition, and connect intuition with analysis, right? These things are potent things that we can talk about more and lean into more and play. And so, yeah, thank you. Awesome. May the force be with you. Disney, sorry, don't block this. I meant, yes, please watch Disney movies. Peace.